All right, guys, so we got to talk about some news last night as Kevin McCarthy has finally been elected Speaker of the House. Now, I told you guys that this would eventually happen, okay? However, the House Freedom Caucus, they had to use all the leverage they could to squeeze everything out of Kevin McCarthy that they could. And I got to tell you guys, I'm not happy about Kevin McCarthy being Speaker because I think he's a snake. However, I mean, this was the only realistic solution that was going to happen. And I'm actually very proud of the House Freedom Caucus, except Marjorie Taylor Greene, that is, for their fight. Okay, they put up a fight against Kevin McCarthy in the establishment that progressives like AOC, okay, and her supporters could only dream of doing when the Democrats had the majority. Okay, this is something that, again, people like Jimmy Dore, other progressives, you know, TYT, they wanted AOC and the squad to do what the Freedom Caucus did to Kevin McCarthy. However, they just don't have the cojones to do it. And to see the Freedom Caucus stand up to the establishment the way they did, it really is a moment to be proud of. And it does show me for the first time in a long time that, you know, electing, you know, people that share your same ideology, that believe in the same things that you believe in, and say they're going to go to Congress and actually fight against the establishment. This is the first time I've actually seen a real fight, okay, against the establishment. No, I'm serious. An actual fight almost broke out in Congress after Kevin McCarthy confronted Matt Gaetz. I think after like the 13th or 14th time the vote failed, eventually ended up passing on the 15th time, I believe. But at one point, Kevin McCarthy had confronted Matt Gaetz, and then that almost ended up in a brawl as another congressman from Alabama confronted Matt Gaetz. Actually, you know, take a look.
And an image of what happened. All right, just to give some context to this, that moment on the floor, I want to show everybody the video when you saw Mike Rogers of Alabama appearing to have to be physically restrained.
That is a pull back.
Pull back,
yeah.
Right on the face. Somebody grabbed him.
Mm-hmm. Physically restrained.
Watch
this again.
Watch his face.
There
he is. Yep.
Wow. As Kevin McCarthy is stonily walking away. Just to Scott, you said this is treachery.
Absolute. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all of our viewers for watching CNN's exclusive screening of Snakes on a Plane Part 2. I've never seen the amount of treachery, not since 1856, when Preston Brooks came to Charles Sumner, have we seen this kind of treachery under the Capitol dome.
Was that on C-SPAN?
This is crazy.
And they hadn't passed a rules package, so we couldn't even have the camera angles.
This is absolutely high drama, crazy stuff.
They held McCarthy and his speakership hostage as much as they could to get some promises on some key issues that are important to the American people, like, for example, term limits, the debt ceiling, promise for some new legislation on the border. They have the ability to try to get rid of McCarthy if he doesn't hold his promises. Again, they got a lot of concessions out of Kevin McCarthy to the point where Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert actually went on Hannity right before Kevin McCarthy was elected Speaker and admitted that, hey, we really don't have much more that we can ask for here, considering how, again, he's basically given us everything that we've wanted.
Well, Sean, this has never been about me or Kevin McCarthy. It's about the American people. And the American people want to know that the rules of the House of Representatives would never allow something like this terrible, horrendous omnibus bill to ever pass ever again. And that's what Congresswoman Boebert and I have been working on. And while I know that sometimes these discussions can be a little awkward up front, I guess it's like a prenuptial agreement that you'd be preparing. Sometimes there can be some uncomfortable moments in the preparation, but it can be necessary. I am excited and encouraged. I am grateful that Speaker-designate McCarthy has been so receptive to each and every change that we have demanded. And Sean, we're at the stage right now where I'm running out of stuff to ask for. I mean, read the bills, have a balanced budget, have a border plan. Yeah. Kevin McCarthy is agreeing to all these things. And again, it's never been about him. It's been about draining the swamp, making this a more honest, transparent, open place. And we may have a few finishing touches. We may be able to get this resolved tonight, but I am proud of the entire Republican conference, and we're going to be stronger and more unified and more able to hold this administration accountable because we have had these early moments of sorting things out.
Yeah, so eventually after that, Kevin McCarthy did get elected Speaker of the House, and this was his speech in which he thanked President Trump for his support throughout the process and ensured people that, Trump is still, the leader of the Republican Party. Take a look.
But I do want to especially thank President Trump. I don't think anybody should doubt his influence. He was with me from the beginning. Somebody wrote the doubt of whether he was there, and he was all in. He would call me and he would call others. And he really was, I was just talking to him tonight, helping get those final votes. And what he's really saying, really for the party and the country, that we have to come together. We have to focus on the economy. We've got to focus, make our borders secure. We've got to do so much work to do, and he was a great influence to make that all happen. So thank you, President Trump.
Yeah, so with that being said, I'm going to talk more about the whole Kevin McCarthy Trump thing. But first, I want to quickly go over with you guys some of the key concessions that Kevin McCarthy gave up to the House Freedom Caucus that I think are good and I agree with. One of them is to be able to have a certain number of representatives trigger what they call a motion to vacate the chair, essentially a motion to have a vote to get rid of Kevin McCarthy. Before, the Democrats had changed it to like having a majority of, the caucus be able to call that vote. However, McCarthy reportedly agreed to lower that threshold to just one member. So basically, one member can say, look, I don't like, the job that Kevin McCarthy is doing. We need to have a vote to have him removed as speaker. Okay. Again, that is a, it is somewhat of a big change, but not really, because it used to be like that before. The Democrats, again, changed it back in 2019. So, again, it's not that big of a deal, but, at the end of the day, it does give, more power to the Freedom Caucus to say, hey, look, if McCarthy isn't fulfilling his promises, then we're going to call a vote to remove him, even though it does actually take a majority of the House to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. Probably one of the more powerful concessions is that McCarthy reportedly agreed to reserve 3 seats for the House Freedom Caucus on the House Rules Committee. Now, the House Rules Committee is one of the most powerful committees in the House because it basically engages in setting the rules of debate, choosing which pieces of legislation to bring up for vote, and rewriting legislation that has already been passed by another committee. So with that being said, you're going to have 9 members of the majority party and 4 members of the minority party. And you're going to have 6 Republicans that are going to be aligned with McCarthy, while 3 Republicans are going to be from the Freedom Caucus. So that's kind of what the rumor is in regards to what they settled on, which means that, again, you're going to have 3 Freedom Caucus members on probably one of the most powerful committees in Congress. Again, that's a big, big, big deal. Now, McCarthy also agreed to fighting for preferred spending cuts, which includes not raising the debt ceiling unless there are some major concessions made, aka more spending cuts to offset the debt that we continue to take on as a country. Fighting some of the pork that is put into some of these bills that we see, like the omnibus bill that's passed every single year, where there's nothing but pork in the bill. Again, the House Freedom Caucus is going to have a lot more say-so over which bills come to the floor and which bills don't come to the floor, which means, again, they could really hold up some things when it comes to the fight every single year to raise the debt ceiling or to pass the omnibus spending bill. They're going to have some leverage when it comes to these government shutdowns. And I think that is important because that's the only way we're going to make any change, right? You got to really, really, really hold these people's feet to the fire. You got to be willing to go all the way if you're going to force change in this country. I mean, the amount of debt that we taking on, the deficit, is just absolutely insane. It's nuts. We can't afford to keep spending money like this. And we can't forget about the floor vote for establishing term limits in Congress, okay, which, again, will be interesting to see which Democrats and which Republicans vote against this. This is something that a majority of the American people agree on, that these people should have term limits. Governors have term limits. The president has term limits. I think members of Congress should have term limits as well, too. It'll be interesting to see if that legislation actually gets brought to the floor. Also, I'm looking to see what happens with Ukraine and whether or not, we're going to continue to pass bills in the House that help fund the war in Ukraine, and how the Freedom Caucus uses their leverage to hopefully at the very least cut some funding, right? Slow down the funding, hold it up, right? Have more debate. I mean, and to be quite honest with you guys, Congress, they should be fighting the same way they fought Kevin McCarthy. The fight that you saw that happened in Congress, they should be fighting like that with almost every single piece of legislation that they're passing in Congress, right? There should almost be a brawl in Congress, okay? That's how passionate they should be about the legislation and the issues. And again, this is why I say I'm proud of them, because I don't think that they could have got a better deal than the deal that they got from Kevin McCarthy. Now, what happens here is that makes the dynamic in Congress interesting, because it's going to make it so you're going to have a lot of pieces of legislation that are going to be very in favor of what conservatives want, or is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely moderate, or honestly, really leaning more Democrat in terms of favorability, more liberal, because that's the only choice that Kevin McCarthy is going to have, right? And that, in my opinion, is going to be an interesting battle in Congress, and it's really going to show us exactly what Kevin McCarthy is at. Now, again, I don't trust Kevin McCarthy. I think he's a snake. I personally expect that he's going to try to work more with Democrats, okay, to pass legislation, because of the fact that he gave up so much leverage to the Freedom Caucus. But we'll see. Maybe he will actually govern or try to, legislate like a true conservative. But again, who knows? The guy's from California, right? You only can expect him to be so conservative. Again, considering how his voting record really is one of the most liberal voting records of any Republican in Congress. But again, he's there to represent his own district, right? We do this thing, we criticize, Republicans, but we got to understand, I mean, look, these guys are there for their district, okay? Yes, they should do what's best for the country overall, but they also are adhering to their district and what their district wants. And again, McCarthy's district is in California, which could explain why his vote is more liberal than most Republicans. But regardless, that's why I said I expect for him to actually just really try to work with Democrats more, right? That is my expectation. However, the Freedom Caucus will have the ability to hold his feet to the fire if he goes off the rails on certain issues, which I think is a good thing. Now, when it comes to McCarthy and Trump, I think that Trump, I honestly think this is going to bite Trump in the back. I really do. I think Trump wants McCarthy's support, as he runs for president during the presidential election season. McCarthy is very well connected. He has the ability to raise a lot of money, a lot of funds. And I think that Trump is trying to get McCarthy on his side. I understand it from a strategic perspective why Trump is doing this. He either needs McConnell or McCarthy, right? It's going to be very hard for him to do anything or to have any real leverage or any power in the party if he doesn't have one of the leaders of one of the major chambers in Congress on his side. And he got McCarthy. We already know that Mitch McConnell is for anti-Trump at this point, right? So, I mean, he got McCarthy, and I mean, hey, it is what it is. Again, I'm not happy with Kevin McCarthy being House Speaker, but I think at this point, the Freedom Caucus did their job. They used as much leverage as they could to get as much power as they did. And I think that ultimately, they did a good job. I would have liked to see somebody else be Speaker, but it seems like none of these guys really have the cojones to challenge the guy that funds all their campaigns, right? Which is one of the main problems in Congress. But it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.